This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Scott Becker, the founder of Becker's Healthcare, Becker Strategy, also a partner at McGuire Woods and the long-term leader of the healthcare department for many, many years. Thank you for listening. That's just some of the business background to give you a sense. The discussion today is 10 stories that we're following this morning. Today is April 11th, 2023. First, the S&P and the Dow each finished up yesterday, slightly up yesterday. The NASDAQ in contrast finished slightly down. Second, futures have pointed up this morning. They're still up slightly in the S&P and the Dow, but they're pointing down on the NASDAQ right now, so softening some. Third, the one-year Treasury yield jumped yesterday at 4.7+%. The 10-year also rose. This is good news for savers, not so good news for investors. Fourth, we had the wonderful chance to interview the chief economist at Commerce Bank yesterday. We talked about inflation, the Fed, labor, unemployment, the chances of recession, and a lot more. That's Scott Colbert, and thank you to him and Ted Glickman with providing us the chance to interview Scott. That will post on both the Becker Business Minute and Private Equity Podcast, as well as the Becker's Healthcare Podcast. Fifth, Bitcoin is now nearing 30,000. To give you a sense of my own investment stupidity, I was sold this when it was way down, took the tax losses. Now I wish I didn't do so. I wish I'd held on. In contrast, I did sell my cannabis stocks, and the cannabis stocks have just gone straight down. So I took the tax losses there. They ended up working out fine. The tax losses on Bitcoin, not so much. It looks like I should have held on. But the real lesson here is one that we talked about in another podcast. These were investments, not with a real conviction, but more a FOMO, fear of missing out bet, not really a thoughtful bet. And the real issue is don't invest based on FOMO. That's our sixth point today, is don't invest based on FOMO, based on a clear conviction, and really know your investments. 7, BlackRock says yesterday that the Fed might not need to raise rates anymore. The CPI will be released Wednesday. It will give us a better sense of what the Fed's going to do at their May 1st or May 2nd meeting. But most people project that they will still raise rates in May. 8th, we did have a great podcast on Bitcoin and crypto. John Savolas of Skybridge Capital joined us a little bit ago. Just brilliant on the subject. 9th, in terms of concerns about recession and more, right now, we're at a spot where Americans in total hold more credit card debt than they've ever held. And again, they've maxed out on home equity loans. The combination of rates rising and any amount of job loss could be a true catastrophe for a good deal of Americans. So let's hope we're able to avoid that. Finally, last 10th, one of the great challenges you see right now, and the Swiss Parliament's right now debating and discussing UBS taking over Credit Suisse. One of the great problems with the large banks taking over the mismanaged smaller banks is that at some point it puts pressure on those large banks. And we do have to remember that over the course of history, nations do go broke. So just because it's not happened in a long time, although it happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s with some of the Central American and South American countries, but just because European countries and Western democracies have not got broken in a long time, doesn't mean that it can't happen. And so got to be careful about piling up all this debt and continue to work to make oneself anti-fragile, including companies, businesses, and individuals. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast.